we went through a bystander effect also,
Yeah.
like the situational factors and the personal factors.
Yeah.
And then we also went through like personality and situational factors that affect obedience.
Yeah. Okay. So very
Yeah.
good. So I think you have summarized like what we have went through last class really well. Yeah. So now we will go through like the contents of it. So can you tell me a little bit about the bystander intervention? What is bystander intervention?
So bystander intervention is when we intervene a certain situation in order to help others in need. And
Yeah.
basically, basically the difference between bystander intervention and bystander effect is that bystander effect is like also called bystander apathy, is when we, because we're reluctant to help others in need. Um it's like we're reluctant to help because we know that other people will help instead. And so there are two factors for bystander that affect bystander intervention, and the first one is the situational factors, and there are three situational factors, and the first one is called pluralistic ignorance, and this is when you look to when you look and see what other you observe other people's reaction to what's going on in a situation, and then you adopt that reaction. um, and this can also help us like interpret whether a situation is deemed as emergency or not. So like for example, if there's a lot of people for example, a drunk man falls down in like a large crowd, and then you see not many people are helping, then you might think like, oh, it's not big of a deal since nobody is helping, and like it's not it's not necessary for me to help. Whereas like if we whereas if like a lot of people are, like, let's say there's a man with a cane and he falls down and there's a lot of people helping the man, then you would feel more inclined to help the man because everybody else is.
Okay.
And yeah.
Very good. Okay. So can you just tell me what the situational factors are? You don't have to expand on it. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because I think
So
you're quite familiar with it. So the first one is
mhm.
pluralistic ignorance. What else do you have?
There's noticing the event, diffusion of responsibility, and cost of helping.
Right. So that's four.
Yeah.
Okay, because just now you said three.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So make
fine.
sure that yeah, it's four. How about personal factors? So,
The personal factors are um, similarity, competence, and mood.
yeah. Very good. Okay. Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about Piliavin?
Um, Pilyavin it's like, okay, so they had a group of um like they to investigate like bystander effect, and um uh they set up an experiment in a naturalistic environment, which means it has ecological validity. And they wanted to understand what would make people more inclined to help someone, and just to see like the relations between um, you know, all of that. And basically, what happened was a large sample that included 4,500 men and women passengers, like um, they were in a train, like they were traveling in a train, and basically, what they did is um, they had like they had different they had like different actors like that there was like two actors. One was like sober, like it was like it's like one was sober, one was sober with a cane, so and one was drunk with a bottle, and they were either black or white, and basically what they assessed is that when they fell over, they wanted to see they like the observers, that there were observers that would observe the like and take down the like what they observed, and that was a model who would help, who if like nobody helped the victim after 70 seconds they would help, or and they would also help after 150 seconds. um so the observers took notes on like basically um like took down data on the types of who helped the victim, and if there's any um yeah like what type of people helped the victim, so like were they the same age as the victim, were they the same race, how, and then they took note on how long it took for people to help the victim, the the gender of um the gender of the people who volunteered to help, and yeah, um and there were 103 trials, and I don't remember the results, but like I know the conclusion was um I remember we talked about how um uh we talked about how yes, mom, mommy, I'm in class. Yeah. um we talked about how I think a couple students predicted that there would be diffusion of responsibility that would show in this study, but not a lot of people there was not a lot of people displayed that behavior, and um people were more inclined to help the victim who was who was carrying a cane than with the victim who was drunk, and um like there were more there were there were tendencies for same race, like people would help the victim if they were the same race as them, and uh like men, okay, women, if it was a if the male victim fell over, women wouldn't help the man because they would think that the cost of helping for them was too high compared to the victim, so they won't help and they will diffuse the responsibility onto other passengers, maybe the males, um and yeah, and men are more likely to help than women, so yeah.
Okay,
um
remember in Piliavin, they
mm,
showed that I mean in the case study of Piliavin, no diffusion of
mm.
responsibility was found. Yeah, so that means
Oh yeah.
when the speed in which people help was greater when there were more people around than there were less.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, so take
Okay.
note that in this study, the conclusion was that diffusion of responsibility does not always happen. Okay.
Okay.
And evaluation, remember what evaluation did we use?
Uh, um, I'm not sure. Was it a covert, like the ones where like they don't know that the participants are unaware that they are participating in an experiment?
Okay, so yeah, that's one of it, right? So basically, the evaluation, we use the grave analysis. Remember?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember.
Okay, so can we go through that? What do you remember from that?
Um, like I remember, uh, like we saw like ethics, the validity, um, an analysis, the reliability, and um, what G stands for. But yeah.
Okay, so A is applicability, yeah, and
Oh,
G is generalizability. Okay, so can we go through that? What do you remember from this analysis? So starting from G.
so generalizability is like how well, like could this study fit like multiple different scenarios, or is it like how well it can be applied um to every um
Oh no,
can
no,
it
I
be
mean using grave analysis,
Mhm.
evaluate Piliavin.
Oh, okay, so Piliavin, I would say it lacks generalizability in a way that, although it was a field experiment and it was conducted in a naturalistic environment, I feel like environments can differ in the way, especially with how like people are brought up and morality and all of that. There's a lot that goes into it, and I feel like if Peliavin were to do this experiment maybe in like a different part of the world, I feel like the results may have differed because of like social and cultural like implications. So that's why I think it would lack generalizability.
Okay, so that is a good take, right? So maybe this experiment was not like a done throughout the globe. However, it was conducted in the New York subway, right? And basically,
Mhm.
New York is quite central and actually quite diverse. And
Mhm.
also because it was a field experiment, there were 4,500 participants, right? So it is
Yeah.
quite a large sample. So in that sense, it is generalizable. However, they only used male model or victims. Yeah, so you
Oh
remember
yeah.
the model and
Mhm.
victims were male and then the observers were female. Yeah, so
Mhm.
in terms of generalizability, you can say like that it is general in the sense that they had a large sample size of 4.5k participants, but it's not generalizable in that they only use male model and victims. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one are.
That's reliability. So it's reliable because um, a lot of passengers, like a lot of the passengers did not know that they were participating in psychological in a psychological research. So this means like there is less like they won't display demand characteristics, so they won't like change their behavior just to suit the aims of the experiment. So like behavior was like completely natural, like their
Yep.
behavior was completely natural, and yeah.
Okay, so that one I think will fall under validity because
Um,
in a natural environment that's so high in ecological validity, and the
mhm,
participants did not know that they were being observed, right? So therefore, it's more valid because they are more likely to act natural, yeah, and
mhm,
less demand characteristics. So for reliability, on the other hand, I think whether the study was reliable, and this falls under the factor of whether the procedure was how was it conducted, right? And so in terms of reliability, Piliavin kept the procedure the same for all the trials. However,
mhm,
as you know, in a natural environment, it's hard to control like extraneous variables compared to like especially a lab experiment. So
mhm.
you could argue that they tried their best to keep the procedure the same and make it reliable. However, they can only do so much because it was in a natural environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is I think the difference between reliability and validity. Okay. And how about A and E? We still haven't touched on those.
Applicability is like because it has because it is like it has general it is like it's um it does have it is generalizable. So in terms of when you apply this, like if you repeat this experiment, then I'm sure like I think you would be able to get like similar results or like I but like um uh I don't know if like this could help in the real world except for like proving that diffusion of responsibility doesn't always happen.
Yeah, so I think for applicability, you could just say that it demonstrates that diffusion of responsibility doesn't always happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
and how about E? I think you're most familiar with E. So what do you remember?
Um, like the participants, because this was a covert observation, the participants did not know that they were, participating in a psychological experiment, and this has a lot of ethical issues because they didn't consent to being um in a in like part of the research. And another one is that it could have like made them like it could have caused it like the situation like could have distressed the participants, and like witnessing something quite upsetting and then not helping could probably get them into a lot of guilt also, so it might have like those kind of effects on the participants.
Very good. Okay, anything else?
um uh yeah, that's it.
There was very good. So very good job. Yeah. I think there's another point in that there was also deception because the victim wasn't
Oh.
really ill or drunk. Yeah, or like in genuine need of help.
Mm,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
So make sure you have noted all of that down. Okay, and then we'll continue with our revision first. Yeah.
Yeah, I already wrote all that down.
Okay. What type of social influences are there?
uh like, is it internal and external?
That is locus of control,
Oh.
but I think for social influence there is normative and informational.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what are they?
Okay. um no oh yeah, normative is like when you comply because you need to fit into a certain like certain group of people.
Okay, and
And
informational.
uh when you conform because you're not sure how to behave in an environment that you feel unfamiliar. in.
Okay.
So you look to how like other people are behaving and look at how they're responding to it, and you adopt those like behaviors and those beliefs in order to like fit in and not feel like an outsider in a way.
Okay, so that is mostly normative because you want to fit in, right? But for informational, we conform because we genuinely believe the majority to be right.
Is
Yeah,
yeah,
so we look
yeah.
to them for the right answer. So you see the
Mhm.
difference. Normative is just so that we can fit in with
Okay.
the norm. Okay, even if we don't agree with them. However, informational is we genuinely do believe that they are right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so make sure that you understand the difference. All right.
Mhm.
And next one is Milgram. What did the experiment show?
The experiment showed that 65% of participants administered the um the electric shock at 450 volts.
Okay, so applying it to real life.
Um, like like it showed that like um you know people like it's like crime or like people do the things they do because of not because of maybe not because of their own free will. It's like because maybe they are like they're simply like blindly ob- obeying to an authority figure.
Okay, so I think that one is sort of the next step.
Mm,
In this study, basically, they showed that ordinary people are obedient to authority, as you said, like, right, like blind obedience,
mm,
even when they are requested to behave in an inhumane way. Yeah.
mm,
So basically, um, I think I did bring it up before, but the best application is a lot of Nazis were pardoned for their war crimes, yeah, because of this experiment. Yeah,
yeah.
because they showed that they weren't actually like evil or whatever, but they were just
Mm,
acting based on blind obedience. Okay.
yeah.
um so I think what you mentioned, that one is the next step. I say is the next step because
Mm,
it goes into the agency theory. So remember
mhm.
what states did Milgram come up with? The what
Like what?
theory?
Pardon?
What theory did Milgram come up with? Do you remember?
Um. Uh.
So it was the agentic state.
Oh yeah. It was like if it's something about like the wait. I wrote this down. It's like it's to do with authority authoritarian personality, right?
No. So I mean it doesn't really have to do with that, but
Uh-huh.
it is
Mm-hmm.
related, I guess. Okay, so there are two types of personality factors that can
Mm-hmm.
influence obedience. So the first one is authoritarian, which you said, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the second is agentic state. So these are two different things, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
authoritarian personality is the kind of people who do not like lower classes, but they like higher classes. So they like authority, therefore they like to obey because they believe in this class system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For agentic state, however, someone in an agentic state believes that they are acting on behalf of the authority. Yeah, so they are more likely to obey. Yeah, so the opposite of agentic state is autonomous state, where they believe
Mm-hmm.
that they have free will, therefore unlikely to obey. So do you see Do you understand that these are two separate things? However, it comes back to the question of them being obedient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can make sure that you have this in your notes. Yeah, and make
Mhm.
sure that I guess take note of like what you weren't too clear with before this. Okay, and then we can
Mhm.
continue. All right.
Okay. Okay, Miss, I'm done.
All right. Can you tell me the variations to Milgram's study?
Uh, mm, oh,
So
was it like they did one with like one person? Like one person was wearing like they were wearing a normal like the 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 okay like originally like the experimenter wasn't wearing a white lab coat and they were just wearing normal civilian clothes and in the next one the experimenter was wearing a white lab coat and um
okay, so that's uniform. What are the others that he changed?
oh he changed the like the location like instead of like one was in like Yale University and the other one was like in like a very like rundown place. So like just they wanted to see whether like changing these factors would affect obedience.
Yeah, very good. What is the other?
Um when if like the participant refused to like press like the button for like more for like as like the volts increase, like will the experimenter just do it themselves?
So proximity, yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, the teacher forced the learner's hand down onto the short plate, yeah, when they refuse to participate after 150 volts.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So it's proximity, change of location, and uniform. Okay,
Mhm.
so what are the things that may affect obedience?
um is it like someone's own personal responsibility?
So there are two categories, yeah. Two categories. What are the two categories?
Situational and personality.
Yeah, very good.
Factor.
Personality. And what would personality factors be?
um like remember I think like we were talking about like authoritarian personality just now. So basically like someone with like this kind of like personality like will probably be more inclined to respect and follow the orders of an authority figure, and so they will just follow and obey like whatever like the authority figure will give them. And like they are often um uh
Yeah, okay. So personality factors are maybe personality. Anything else?
oh uh let me highlight something. um we were talking about like internal locus of control and like external locus and control. So like internal locus of control is like when we like have when we feel like we have personal like control over our actions and our behavior. So someone who is like ruled by internal locus of control is probably more likely to not follow the orders of an authority figure because they're more independent in the sense that they know what's right and wrong. And they like if they feel like what they're doing goes against their own morals and their values, they will not um comply, or they will not abide by something that like um they will not abide by something that goes against their morals and their values.
Very good. Okay.
So
Yeah.
whereas like someone with like a personality that is like external locus of control, they're more likely to follow orders because like they feel like, oh, if someone tells them to do something, they will not feel personally responsible if they do it, because they'll be like, oh, this person told me this and this person told me that it is right, so I did it, so it's not my fault. Like
Very
kind
good.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So personality factors. You mentioned personality,
Mhm.
locus of control, and then others would be maybe abilities, education, and feelings. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Very good. Um. All right. So now we will continue with this chapter. Okay, and we haven't gone through this, so we will just discuss this first. Okay,
Okay.
so crowd behavior. Yeah.
Mhm.
What is crowd behavior? Can you tell me a
Um,
little bit about like anything that you know about crowd behavior?
um, so like I know that like for example, like there are two different types of crowds. Some some are peaceful and some are like riots like that. So the ones that are like um the
Okay,
ones that are like festivals and
yeah.
um
Okay, so you said peaceful and riots. So
mhm,
basically, these are categorized into two different crowds. So it's active and passive. Yeah.
mm, okay.
So active and passive, maybe you can think of it as like active is you are doing something, and passive is you are not really like taking action. Yeah, so
Mm,
for example, active crowds would be taking part in a protest, yeah, like you
mm,
said, riots. And passive crowds would be maybe listening at a religious service. So do you
mm.
see how these would be active and passive? um, do you see how these would be active and passive?
Yeah.
You understand, right?
Yes.
Okay, so crowd behavior, right? Just basically, to introduce it first, it's a large group of individuals behaving collectively. Okay,
Mm,
so this is also known as the mob mentality. Okay, and in a
mm,
in during when you are in a crowd, your crowd behavior, usually you have a reduction in personal responsibility, and you are usually anonymous within the crowd, right? So the
yeah.
individualization, remember we talked about this.
Yes.
Okay, what types of behaviors would there be in a crowd?
Um, like, won't it depend on whether it's an active or a passive crowd?
um yes, but what two categories can these behaviors fall under?
Uh,
So it can fall under antisocial behavior or pro-social
pro-social
behavior.
behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is antisocial behavior?
It's like, uh, um, I'm not sure how to like. It's like antisocial is like behavior that is considered to be very like disruptive, loud, and aggressive. Whereas
Yeah.
like pro-social is like the complete opposite. It's like behavior that is very peaceful and usually like helpful and more like yeah, like
Yes.
more
Yes.
often the ones that you see in like concerts or um like yeah.
Sure. Yep. Okay. Good. I'm not really sure about concerts. I guess it depends on what type of
Yeah.
concerts, because concerts can still get rowdy. But
Mhm.
yeah, as long as you get the gist of it, very good. Okay. The next one, the next case study we're going to do is the Zimbardo case study. Okay. So can you tell me, what you know about the Zimbardo case study without referring to your notes, preferably?
Um, I do know that like they wanted to in so basically it was set in like a simulated like prison environment. I think it was in Stanford. It's in Stanford Uni, and basically they wanted to see like whether like power whether like if they gave like participants like power like how would like they wanted to measure like because there are like some participants were like prisoners and some were guards, and they wanted to see the effect of like power on how like they treated other people. And yeah, they wanted to see like how like whether like a position of power allow um would allow them to be aggressive like that.
Okay. Anything else?
um uh like the results or the conclusions or
So remember the structure of how we would talk about studies. So basically the background, aim, um, procedure, findings, conclusions. Yeah.
yeah.
So and then after that you could talk
Response.
about like evaluation, so using the analysis that we learned yesterday and we talked about just now as well. Yeah, so
Okay.
anything else?
So the procedure is like and they put an advert on um to ask for volunteers to take part in the study. I know there's a specific term for this type of like study. I'm not sure, like when you get like your participants, like when they voluntarily ask
Mm-hmm.
for it.
Mm-hmm.
um but like they made sure like the s- all the participants were healthy, both like physically and psychologically. um and like there like it would I think they were like split the participants were split into like guards and prisoners. And the guard, like they told the guards like what to do, like like how, like they didn't exactly tell them like, oh, you have to behave in like an aggressive way, or um you have to like be stern, all like that. They didn't mention that. They just said like, oh, this is how you like operate, this is like your duty, this is what you're supposed to do, like in the prison. And so yeah, that's all I can remember for the procedure. Then the results, it's like the results show that like when after like, I think after like um oh after a day or two, when they observed the behavior of the prison guards and the prisoners, they saw that the guards had become more hostile and more aggressive towards the prisoners. And they were they s- and like most like the like an example of this behavior of them being aggressive was like the guards um would like scream at them like really rude things, and would like and like uh they would give like harsh punishments to the prisoners too. And like for like the smallest thing, they would give like really harsh punishments. And like over the next like week or so, like because like the prisoners were already like really afraid of the guards, and the 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 punishments and um the amount of like rude words started to like increase. And there was a lot of like personality change within the guards and the prisoners. So, like coming to the conclusion, the prisoners started to rebel less, and they started to become a lot more submissive to the guards. And the guards became increasingly more aggressive and hostile towards the prisoners. And it looked like it looked like the prisoners were like showing signs of de-individualization, which means like they're like losing their like personality, and they're just like losing their identity. And they identified not as by like their name or like where they came from or anything, but they identified by only like they because they were given a number, and that's the only way they identify themselves in. And like this really like broke down their sense of identity, and made them more like submissive, and just like to the guards and stuff like that.
Very good. Okay, anything else?
So the strengths and weaknesses, I know a lot of ethical issues with this, but like
Okay,
Basically,
so before you start, so remember how we analyze
oh, yeah,
case studies? How?
brave.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so let's do that.
So start with generalizability. So basically,
Hold on, hold on. Hold on. I know it's a lot. So do you want to go through like everything that you talked about first, or you want to go through finish grave and then I talk about it from the start?
I think we should finish
Okay,
grave first.
okay, we'll do
Okay.
that then.
So basically, grave. The first thing is generalizability, and I think this specific study would lack generalizability because, if I'm not mistaken, it's like it was only there was not like a control group for females. So because the study was only like like male volunteers, it decreases the generalizability of the findings because this is just more of like this a study on men, not on women. So this cannot actually directly apply to women. Um, and in terms of reliability, uh, um, like uh, oh reliability. Is it possible that like the prisoners and the guards would have like showed demand characteristics because maybe like the guards like maybe like the guards were expected to be like aggressive towards the um towards the prisoners.
Do you say they were asked to be aggressive?
No, they weren't asked to be aggressive,
Okay.
but
Uh,
like
mm, they were
it's
actually
yeah.
specifically told not to use physical punishment or physical aggression though.
Oh,
Yeah,
uh,
which we will go through later.
mhm.
So you could talk about um yeah, you just try to answer first and then we'll go through it.
Okay. Like how like I was how do I say this? It's like um uh mm, I'm not sure because like most of the things I'm like thinking of, I think like it's more of like validity rather than like
No worries, you just try and then we'll go through it, yeah?
okay. Like because this prison wasn't actually a real prison, it was only like it's a simulated prison, which means it's an artificial setting, and this means like the study has it that means it lowers the ecological validity of the study. And yeah, um yeah. And app for application, like I don't think like this can actually be applied because because like it's a simulated prison, and like obviously it's like an artificial environment, and the artificial environment may differ. Like what happens in the artificial environment may differ in like real prisons, and like you wouldn't be able to yeah, I don't think you would be able to apply this like in a real prison or anything like that. But it did help us to show how like you know prison guards tend to be more aggressive towards submissive prisoners. And for validity, uh, like um for validity, maybe the study would not be considered valid because of like because they didn't have a control group for females, so it was whole experiment was just all males, so it might differ. So maybe that could reduce um the validity of the study because of like it's only for males. And the ethical issues is that this could have put the um the participants in a lot of psychological harm, because like being faced with um being verbally assaulted like every single day is not nice. And like you know, like they could have been really like distressed, and it
Mm-hmm.
could have maybe like damaged their mental health a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like um they specifically, like I remember like you told me just now that they specifically told the guards not to like do any like physical like punishment, but they did it anyways. And they should have just stopped it there, to be honest, because like they know like it's already like um like it's already pushing the envelope, like you already know like it's wrong like ethically, but you still like continue the study. So like it's a bit, you know, like it makes people wonder like, oh, okay, like miss, did they have to sign a contract for this?
um when they do studies, right, they usually do sign something. Yeah. So
Oh wait, so that's probably why like they had to stay in the study. Like I mean, I'm sure like all like participants have the right to like withdraw, but like is it like you have to withdraw within like a certain time frame, then like you can't withdraw anymore?
so they did sign like contracts that told them like what was expected of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the experiment, they were paid for their time, and the experiment lasted for 2 weeks basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think that's all.
Okay, very good. So I think you do have like a good um basic understanding, yeah, of this study. I think there are just a few more details that we have to brush up on. Yeah. So
Yeah,
let's just go through it together now. Okay.
because I'm
And
not sure like about like the whole procedure, like the
yeah,
whole thing.
no
That part.
problem. We'll go
uh,
through it together now, and I
Okay.
want you to, as we discuss, you analyze what you didn't understand before, or what you missed out on, what you have to focus on going forward. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so now I will start off with what the background to the study. Right, so we are following the structure, the background to the study. So basically, before this study, right, people believed in the dispositional hypothesis. What are these? What is this?
Um, I'm not sure.
So what they believed that prisons are horrible places because of the nature of the people who live and work there. Yeah. So
Okay.
they blame the people for it. They say these people are horrible people. That's why prisons are horrible places. Yeah, so the scientists came up with this study called the Zimbardo study, and it's because Zimbardo argues that it is the situation that makes people act the way that they do. Yeah, so they
Yeah.
are arguing that prisons are horrible places not because these people are horrible, it's because the situation itself makes them act that way. Okay, so this study, take note, it had two aims. Two aims. First aim to test the dispositional hypothesis, which everyone believed before this study was conducted. And the second one is to show how the taking of social roles would lead to excessive conformity to those roles. Do you understand what that means? It just
Like,
means that if you are placed in this role, it would lead to you conforming to that role excessively. Yeah?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what happened is they took 24 male participants. Yeah? And these 24 males were randomly allocated to guard or prisoner. So let me explain the difference between guards and prisoners before we continue, okay? Guards chose their own uniform, set the rules, designed the prison, not allowed to use physical punishment or physical aggression. Like I said, it was stated in the contract, yeah? That was what was expected of them. Prisoners were arrested from their homes, blindfolded, brought to the prison, and then deloused and dressed in a lesser uniform.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you know what deloused is, right?
Uh,
So it's just to treat um the person to get rid them of to rid them of lice and other like parasites and stuff. Yeah, so you can imagine like how they felt, right? Imagine like you were dragged into this place and then you were deloused and then you were dressed in a lesser uniform. So even at the start of it, you can imagine how these two um roles set in very quickly. Yeah,
like
okay.
it's like showing them like like they're less, like they're like inferior
Yeah, yeah,
to like
and
everyone else.
yeah, not really everyone else, but basically like compared to the guards. Yeah,
The guys, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so what did this experiment find? It found that the findings were the experiment disintegrated very quickly. So what happened was the guards began to humiliate and punish the prisoners. Yeah, and many prisoners began to show signs of mental and emotional distress. So you did mention this when you were talking about the ethics of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine on the second day, just the second day, yeah, um, the prisoners organized a mass revolt and riot as a protest about the conditions of the prison. Yeah, so just the second day, you can imagine how bad it was for them to have to do that, right? What the guards did then was they worked extra hours, yeah, to and develop a plan to stop the riot. And what they did was they used fire extinguishers. Okay, so after
Oh, okay.
this, prisoners began to react very passively. Yeah, they reacted passively. So they started to feel helpless and no longer in control of their lives.
Mm.
Yeah, the guards became more aggressive, and every guard at some point behaved in an abusive, authoritarian way. Yeah,
Yeah.
most of them seem to really enjoy their newfound power and control that went with the uniform, meaning like that went with the role of being a guard. Yeah, some of them volunteered to even work extra shifts, and they continued to behave in an authoritarian way even when they believed that the cameras were not on. Yeah, so this
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
just for show. Yeah, so clearly if they didn't think that they were being observed, they still felt that way. It's because basically they took on the role very seriously and they enjoyed it. Yeah, so all the prisoners rights were redefined as privileges.
Mm.
So do you understand what that
Oh.
means?
It's like oh, like the basic rights they have, like for example, like to their name, like now it's considered a like like a privilege, like
Yeah.
kind of sad.
Yeah, so can you imagine how that must have felt? Like,
Yeah.
basic rights were redefined as privileges, yeah? And then they
Mm-hmm.
started punishing the prisoners with little or no justification. So we don't know why, but they just started punishing them. Yeah, they verbally insulted the prisoners, and the prisoners became very institutionalized very quickly and adapted to their roles. I think you did mention this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that came out of this study, very important, is we learned about the pathological prisoner syndrome.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what this is?
Nope.
Right, so we can break it down into three things. The pathological prisoner syndrome, it is the loss of personal identity, the arbitrary control exercised by the guards, and dependency and emasculation. Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is like I think that I got control. I got confused with this with like the individualization.
Ah, okay, I see. Um, yeah, so now you understand the difference, yeah? Make
Yeah.
sure that you understand the difference. Okay,
Mhm.
so what is the evidence of this syndrome? It is that one prisoner left and a replacement prisoner was introduced. Yeah, he went on a hunger strike as a protest about the treatment of the inmates and as an attempt to be released. Yeah, and what
Mhm.
happened was the other inmates saw him as a troublemaker rather than a fellow victim trying to help.
Mhm.
So do you see,
Yeah.
what he did was he really tried his best, even sacrificing himself for the community, and the community meaning the inmates, and all they did was they saw him as the troublemaker.
Mm.
Yeah. So what happened was the the experiment actually stopped after 6 days instead of the 2 weeks. Yeah, because of the
Oh.
pathological reactions of the participants. And
Oh.
and even better, 5 prisoners had to be released even earlier because of extreme emotional reactions.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so we'll talk about the ethic issues later on, but I think we can all agree that there are severe ethical issues here.
But
um
like this, it's like I'm pretty sure someone can like sue like these guys for like psychological trauma. Like I'm surprised nobody sued them for this
um
study.
First of all, it's because it was like in the olden days, and second of all, I think
Oh.
it's because they were getting paid as well, and like, yeah, it was like
Oh.
voluntary, right? So I mean, to argue it's arguable on both sides. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Like they knew what they were getting into, so
yeah.
there's no argument.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they signed a contract, I'm sure that the contract did state all of these. Plus, it was a study, so they can't really like expect this to happen, right? Or like they can't promise that this wouldn't happen or whatever. So they may have put like a clause in there stating this
Mm.
may happen, you know.
Yeah, but they probably didn't read it.
So always read your contracts. Okay, so basically the conclusion of this study, right, it's it rejected the dispositional hypothesis. Yeah, so I think that is quite obvious, and as to why it's also quite obvious. Yeah,
Yeah.
the prison environment changed the guards behavior. People
Mhm.
conform to the roles they are expected to play, and the roles that we are given can shape our behavior and attitudes. Yeah, so
Oh,
these are
okay.
the 4 conclusions from Zimbardo. All right, now we move on to the grave analysis.
Okay.
So the grave analysis, yeah. So
Mhm.
G, generalizability, I think you did mention that only males took part. So
Mhm.
that is a very good point. Yeah, so the sample is very limited, only males took part. Other than that, it was also a very small sample, and they were all university students. Yeah.
Mm.
So terrible generalizability. um, for reliability, a lot of controls in place. The experiment was recorded, so there could be inter-rater reliability. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what is inter-rater reliability? You know, right?
Um, I'm not sure.
So basically, inter-rater reliability is the degree of agreement among independent observers who rate, code, or assess the same phenomenon or study. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, and then there are also rules put in place, although these were broken. Yeah. So I guess um, they tried their best to put all these controls in place and put all these rules in place. Yeah. For applicability, you said that it doesn't really reflect prison, but I think because this study was so real, as in the roles were very accurate, it actually does tell us a lot about prison behavior. Yeah, so it tells us
Mm.
that the situation in the prison can lead to negative behavior. Okay,
Mm.
so yeah,
So it's
um,
not like the people, like it's not the people, it's like the conditions that they're put
yeah,
in and the roles that they play.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Validity, the prison is not real life, so prisoners didn't commit real crimes, guards had limited power. The participants all knew it was part of a study, therefore, like you said just now, they may have shown demand characteristics. Yeah, so this
Yeah.
they may have because of all of this. Okay.
Or like, remember when we were talking about like how like even when the cameras were off, they were still like
Yeah.
really like aggressive. So like if they were like playing demand characteristics, wouldn't they just do it for the camera and then like stop doing it like after? But they
Yes.
were like still observed.
Yes, yes. So, that is for certain characteristics, right? But
Yeah.
there may have been other characteristics that may have been demand characteristics.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So that is like for some of the guards, right? May then how about the characteristics in on the part of like the prisoners and other guards that didn't show it, you know? So all of that.
Mm.
And ethics. um I think this is quite simple. So you did mention that there was a lot of psychological harm. Also, it was very, very difficult for the prisoners to withdraw despite asking for parole. Yeah. So
Oh.
we did mention that five of them had to be released even earlier, but those were because they had extreme emotional reactions. Yeah. So I guess
Mm-mm.
if like you could say that it's very, very unethical because it was so hard to withdraw. They needed extreme emotional reactions to be able to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to take note of all of this and then we can continue, alright?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, very good. So now we'll continue to the next part. Yeah. Um, so um, have you done social and cultural issues before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, all right. So before we start, can we define society and social issue? What is a society?
Like a society is a like a community of people.
Good. And so social issue?
A, like a problem that affects an entire group of people.
Very good. Okay. Um, what is culture?
Um, Culture. Is it like beliefs like beliefs and values that are shared amongst a community of the same people who have the same beliefs and values.
Good. And traditions as well. Yeah. Traditions, beliefs, and values. Yeah. Very good. What are the two types of cultures?
Um, Collectivistic and individualistic.
Very good. Okay. And what are they?
So like collectivistic is like kind of like uh
What does it emphasize on?
um like uh like 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 group membership, and when you depend on like other, like kind of like teamwork, like that. Like an example would be like uh I guess like Japan would be a good example, because they usually you know like they usually help each other, and they're very like good at working in groups.
Okay. How about individualistic?
It's usually like they it's like they work by themselves, like they're more of like they work in solitude, like that.
Close. Okay, okay. So now we are looking at what it emphasizes on, yeah, these cultures. So the
Mhm.
collectivist culture, very good example, yeah. So you can actually use the example to try to remember like the emphasis on what the emphasis is on, yeah. So
Mhm.
for collectivist culture, it emphasizes on three things: group membership, interdependence, and cooperation. Okay, in the
Yeah.
collectivist culture, there is more obedience. And in the individualistic culture, there are three emphases as well. It emphasizes on the independence, autonomy, and individuality. All right,
Yeah.
therefore, less obedience. Okay, so I want you to try to come up with a way to remember this. All right. Um,
Okay.
I think your example is a very good example to help you to understand this concept. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So you have to be able to explain obedience and conformity and how it changes across cultures. Okay,
Mm.
so you can use these diagrams. I want you to create your own diagram, but you can refer to these to help you. Okay,
Okay.
so the first one I sent you is conformity across cultures, and the
Okay.
second one would be obedience in different cultures. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so I want you to try to make notes, ask me if you have any questions, and then we will go through everything that we have went through just now. Okay,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, very good. So let's just do some recap. Okay.
Okay.
Try not to look at any of your notes or your book. Okay, when we are doing it. All right. So um. Okay, what did Pilyavin find? Tell me the conclusion of Pilyavin.
Um, we found that like diffusion of responsibility does not always happen.
Very good. What else?
Um, um, uh, larger when there's more people, like more people are more likely to help the victim than if it was like a smaller number of people in the subway.
Very good. Anything else? Two more.
Um, there was like most of the time, the people would only help the victim if they were like the same race, so they were like same race bias like that, and um uh men were more like statistically men were more likely to help the victim than women.
Okay, very good. So for same race, right? It was only more tendency for same race helping if the victim appeared drunk. Yeah. So I
Oh,
think
okay.
that one still falls under the results. Yeah. For
Mhm.
conclusion, I think sorry, yeah. For conclusion, men are first helpers more than females, and we are more likely to help an ill victim than a drunk victim.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you see, like, um, you understand why people may be more willing to help an ill victim than a drunk victim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, very good. So I think in understanding that, you would be able to better remember like the conclusion of this Pilyavin. Yeah. Um okay, so what are the factors affecting conformity?
um so there are situational factors and personality factors.
Yeah.
So um is it like uh, I'm not sure.
Okay, so for personality, it will be locus of control and age.
Oh yeah.
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 So for
I keep
age,
like thinking it's like obedience instead of like conformity. I don't know why.
no, it's okay. For obedience, you did mention locus of control, which is also relevant. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it could apply to both. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for conformity, age, what age of people would be more likely to conform?
Adolescents.
Yeah, very good. And situation factors would be the size of the group, unanimity, and task difficulty.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So, um, more likely to conform for situation factors. Can you tell me who are more likely to conform? So, based on the factors that I mentioned, can you tell me who are more likely to conform?
Um, like young adults.
um okay, so that one is for personality. So for situation, it would be the size of group, right? Who are more likely to conform? Bigger groups are more likely to
Mm.
conform. Then for unanimity, everyone agrees, then you are more likely to conform. And the difficulty of the task, right? If the task
Yeah.
is easy, you are more likely to conform.
Yep.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
so make sure you have this down. So crowd behavior, what type of crowd behaviors are there?
There are um pro-social and um pro-social and antisocial.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and for Zimbardo, what were the two aims?
The two what?
Aims.
Oh, they wanted to see if um giving someone a place of authority would change the way in how they act, and how they wanted to see if their behavior would change because of like um power was given to them.
Right. So basically, how taking of social roles would lead to
Mhm.
excessive conformity to those roles, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So basically, it's how if you're put into a social role, it would lead to excessive conformity of that role. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and the first aim is to test the dispositional hypothesis. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, very good. So make sure that you have that down. Can you tell me the analysis for Zimbardo?
uh like what do you mean, like analysis?
So how do we analyze case studies?
Oh, like the background, the aim, the procedure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the the background is um basically they wanted to see they wanted to test the dispositional hypothesis, and they wanted to see if giving people roles would change their behavior, and they want to see if the condition and the if they gave people roles, whether it would change their behavior and that. And the aim was to like to see whether um when you when you like mm, to see the changes in behavior between for the guards and for the prisoners when they are both held at when they're both given their roles, to see how they would act and behave. um so the procedure, 24 participants was
Okay.
selected.
Okay.
And
No problem. We don't have to go through that one. So now we will do the grave analysis. Yeah, for
okay.
Zimbardo.
Okay. So basically, so the first part of grave is generalizability, and um, basically this study was only had male participants. So it would be difficult to apply this to real life when there's not a female control, there's no female participants. So like this like this this means this study lacks generalizability. um
Okay.
and
It was also a small sample, and they were all
oh
university students. Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Small sample. Okay. The reliability, uh um okay, because some the guards clearly did not follow the rules and everything. They tried to control extraneous variables, but I don't think it was controlled very well, because the participants ended up crossing, especially the guards ended up crossing the line, and yeah. So for application, um it can be applied to real life because the roles were very accurate, and it can tell us a lot about how prisoners and guards act in prison, and basically can tell us more about um their behavior and why they act like that. So for validity, it does not have like it there's no it lacks ecological validity because this was a simulated prison, so this means it was an artificial environment, and um like yeah, it was an artificial environment. And for ethical issues, there was a great there's a lot of psychological like distress on the prisoners because of the verbal abuse and everything. So it had a great like um effect on the prisoners' mental health. And yeah.
Good. Okay, and also for validity, there might have been demand characteristics, yeah, because they knew it was
Yeah.
part of a study. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. And um, so for reliability, you could also talk about inter-rater reliability, which was what I mentioned earlier. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if like you're familiar with it. Sorry, reliability. Yeah, I sent it to you in the chat. You can read up a little bit on it first, and then we can continue. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Inter.
Rater reliability.
Okay. Um, to the degree to which different readers give Miss, like I see like multiple like definitions, but I don't quite like understand it.
Okay, so basically inter-rater reliability. Which one is the one that you understand the best?
Um, there's there's one in like there's I mean like I'm not sure which one is psychological and which one is like statistical, but like
Okay, so do you want me to just explain it to you?
yes please.
All right, so basically it's the most easily understood form of reliability. Yeah. So because everyone has encountered it. So if I were to give you an example, maybe any sport using judges. Yeah. So
Yeah.
can you think of a sport?
Rugby.
Sorry?
Rugby.
Okay, so sort of something that they have to rate. So for example, like Olympics ice skating. Yeah, so they give like marks for it,
Oh.
right? So it relies on human observers maintaining a great degree of consistency between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Okay. So it's like something you just have to like rate.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's like you're rating like behavior on a scale.
It's not, no, it's how everybody is watching that situation, or competition or whatever. So in this case, in the study, it's the because it's recorded, right? So they are watching the recording, yeah, the experiment, and everyone has to have like a consistent degree of reliability when looking at that situation. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is interlinked with the fact that there were a lot of controls in place.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So, have you done the diagrams for conformity across cultures and obedience?
Pardon?
Have you done the diagrams in your notes for conformity and obedience across
Across
cultures?
cultures. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, very good. So, can you explain it to me?
So basically, um, it's like, uh, in certain parts of like the world, there's less conformity compared to other countries that may have like more conformity. Like, um, like it can tell us about like how people behave in like certain situations due to like the cultural and social difference. And um like um how do I say this? There's this study called Bond and Smith, and they showed that like certain collectivistic cultures were more likely to conform to like more people than other like than individualistic cultures. Like, because like individualistic cultures are more like independent, and this is where the obedience is less, whereas like in collectivistic cultures they think as a group and there's more obedience there. So yeah. And so like for example, like countries where there's less conformity is like the United States, the UK, France, and then where there's more conformity is like Brazil, Hong Kong, like Japan.
Yeah,
And
very good. Okay, and how about obedience?
obedience was Milgram, and basically like Milgram's, was it the shock experiment? Like
Mm-hmm.
the shock experiment was replicated in many different countries, and basically the set of data like showed that South Africa had the highest percentage of people who um, abided by the authority figure. And so this shows that South Africa is probably like has is probably a collectivistic, probably has collectivistic culture, is probably a collectivistic culture, whereas countries such as Australia is probably considered to be more individualistic, because they showed um, a lower percentage of obedience.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, all right. So I want you to make sure that you go through all of this, okay, and
Okay.
also bring the printouts to school for our next class. All right.
Okay, can.
Okay. See you then.
Okay, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.